guys, Mrs. Phillips here. I am going to show you today how to make the chocolate chip pancake. And I just want to point out one thing about this in the title of this recipe. It is called a pancake, not because it's a breakfast food that you would put syrup and butter on. It is called a pancake because it is made in one pan. You don't have to have a bunch of bowls and other things to make it in. So it's all made in one pan together. Okay, first thing I would do before I get started is to put an apron on if you have one. Here in our kitchens we do have aprons for everyone to use. If you have long hair, you want to pull it back, and also wash your hands. You want to wash your hands multiple times throughout cooking just to make sure you are being sanitary with your cooking. Alright, once you've done all that, you make sure that you have all your ingredients. You'll read through your list of ingredients, get your ingredients out, and also your utensils. So the ingredients I'll be using today are flour, I've got sugar, oil, vinegar, salt, baking soda, and I have my pan here. It's an 8x8 pan, and I have measuring spoons. I have a spatula. I have a straight edge here for measuring. I have a liquid measuring cup, and then I have dry measuring cups. And with this recipe, it calls for you to stir with a fork, so I have a fork. I also like to keep a wet washcloth just to keep my hands clean throughout and wipe any spills, like if I'm measuring flour or whatnot, and it gets all over. All right, so I'm gonna look at my directions. Preheat the oven to 350, so I would do that to get started. The first thing to measure is the flour, and I need 1 2/3 cup of flour. So I'm gonna get my container over here. When you are measuring flour, you wanna make sure you always fluff it up in the container, or if you have it in a bag, loosen it up, and then measure over your container or another bowl or trash can. Never measure over top of your bowl or pan in this instance, because you will get too much in there and you won't have an accurate measurement. So to measure flour, always overfill it. Take our straight edge spatula. We're going to tap gently. We're not going to bang it. Just lightly tap back and forth, and then swoop it. And that gives us a nice even measurement. That's 1 cup. And then I need 2/3 cup, so I have a 1/3 cup measuring cup. So if you add that together, I need 2 of these to make 2/3. So I'll do it exactly the same way. Just overfill the cup, tap, 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 and swoop it. Actually, this is not exactly a straight edge spatula. This has some rough edges on the one side, so let me do that again. All right, that's 1/3. And now for the 2/3. You never want to dig your measuring cup right into the flour. That will pack it down, and you don't want that. You always want flour to be nice, loose, fluffy flour. Okay, 1 2/3 cup of flour goes right into the baking pan. And by the way, this pan does not need to be greased. It says it right in the directions. All right, the next thing, or the next ingredient, is brown sugar. I need to have 1 cup of brown sugar, and let me get that. Brown sugar. All right, so the difference between white sugar and brown sugar is that brown sugar has molasses in it. So it's a little bit sweeter, and it also is a little moist. So with brown sugar, you can actually dig right in. I'm loosening it up because it's been sitting for a little while, so it kind of packs itself. I'm going to dig my 1 cup right in, get an oversized scoop, and then with brown sugar, the fun thing to do is to pack it down with our fingers as if we were building a sandcastle. And you still want to take your straight edge and kind of, as best you can, it kind of peels when you do that. Now, when you do brown sugar, you will know that you measured correctly if you put it into your pan or your bowl, and it keeps the shape of the measuring cup. Okay, now I've got brown sugar on my hands, so I'm gonna use my handy dandy rag there. All right, so measured the brown sugar and I added it to the flour, and the directions say using a fork, you're gonna stir it. So I push the brown sugar down to break it up gently. And now the one thing with this recipe is using it in this pan, you gotta be very, very careful because it is a very shallow pan. It's not like a big mixing bowl. So you can easily get your ingredients thrown out the sides there. So I'm gonna crush up the big chunks that are in here because that happens with brown sugar. All right, get that all mixed in there and stir it around. Push the big chunks down. All right. I'm gonna put my lid back on my brown sugar container and put that aside since I'm done. And I'll put the flour. Next up is to measure the baking soda, salt. An optional ingredient in here was the walnuts. We're not doing that today. So I'll do the salt and the baking soda. All right, I need 1 teaspoon of baking soda. I only have a half and quarter here. Let me grab 1 teaspoon out of here. Okay, got my 1 teaspoon. And my baking soda. What's nice about baking soda is it has kind of a leveler already built into it. So you can get an oversized scoop and then use the top lid to measure it off for you. Just want to make sure this particular spoon has a ledge in it, so you just want to make sure you're not including that ledge. All right, so I sprinkle that in there. That was 1 teaspoon, and I need a ½ teaspoon of salt. So I want to take my salt here. And again, I can dig in because it's a dry ingredient, and I do want to level off. We always want to level off so we get accurate measurements. Okay, put that in. Put my lid on. Okay, and then it says add to the flour and stir using a fork. Okay, and stir in completely. So you want to make sure you mix it in real well. Done another big chunk there. All right, the next ingredients are oil, water, and vinegar. Okay, I'm going to stir it right into the flour mixture until it is well blended. So get this mixed up a little better here. Okay, so for oil I need 1/3 cup, so I'll grab my liquid measuring cup because oil is a liquid. And okay, put it on a flat surface. And you always want to get down at eye level. So I'm going to pour into where I think it's correct, just by eyeballing it, and then I'll get down at eye level to check. And it's right about on, so I lucked out there. Put this over here. Okay, so I'll pour the oil in the pan. I'm just gonna use my rubber scraper to get as much out as I can. Okay, and then I need a teaspoon of vinegar. Grab my teaspoon. I'm going to just do this right over my liquid measuring cup here, since this is a big container. And I don't want to get too much vinegar into my pan, so you never pour right over your bowl or your pan. Pour that in there. Okay, so that was the vinegar, the oil, and now the water. I'm going to go over to the sink and get 1 cup of water. put it down on my flat surface, just double check it. Down at eye level, let it stop moving. Okay, perfect. All right, so put that in. I'm going to stir this mixture. Now this is where you have to be really careful stirring, because this can get rather messy. I kind of take my fork and just push it until it starts to really, the flour and the liquid start to really combine. You have to make sure that you're dragging your fork along the bottom, the sides and the corners, so you get all the ingredients mixed in well. Oh, see, here I go, making a mess. All right, so you just continue stirring that until you don't see any more flour, white flour in there. You know, it's hard to see, but see how I can still have all that flour that needs to be completely blended in. So I'm gonna stir that. And I just turn my pan, it just makes it easier. Now it's getting a little thicker so I can stir a little easier. Okay, checking, I'm pulling back the batter to make sure that I have all the flour incorporated and blended. Okay. It's kind of like a pancake consistency, a pancake batter consistency, even though it's not a pancake. Okay. So that's now well blended. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. And then the last thing to do is, well, the second to last thing to do is to measure the chocolate chips. Never needed the sugar, so let me grab the chocolate chips over here. Okay, so we have mini chocolate chips. That's what the recipe calls for, half of a cup. You can use, I've actually used regular size chocolate chips as well, so it doesn't really matter. These are just, I think they work a little bit better. If you have room, you could dig your cup on in there. I'm just gonna pour it out here. When you are measuring something like chocolate chips, it is a dry measuring cup that you would use, and you fill it up to the top and you kind of pack it gently down to try to get a level scoop. And then you just mix these in, sprinkle them in. You can take your fork and if you want, just kind of, because I didn't get them sprinkled evenly across, so you could either sprinkle it in from the cup or take it and do it from your hand. I'm just going to move them around so that they kind of get a little bit more evenly spread, so that they're not all clumped together. Okay, the last step, number 6, says place in the center of the oven and bake for 35 to 40 minutes. You can use a toothpick to check the doneness. If you pull the toothpick out and there's nothing really on it, then it is done. If it still has stuff on it when you pull it out, you can put it back in for a couple minutes and just keep checking it. So this is what it looks like before it is done. And we'll show you a picture with the complete product. Thank you.